The future moves fast. The AvePoint Shift Happens podcast is your edge, where leaders unpack AI, data, modern work, and the mindset shifts that turn change into advantage. Hear what top innovators are trying next and how to make it work. Visit avpt.co/shift today.
When you manage procurement for multiple facilities, every order matters. But when it's for a hospital system, they matter even more. Grainger gets it and knows there's no time for managing multiple suppliers and no room for shipping delays. That's why Grainger offers millions of products in fast, dependable delivery, so you can keep your facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. Man, check this out. On this episode, what we're going to talk about is Black TV dads. At the time of this recording, we're coming upon Father's Day. The year is 2024, and we're about to hit Father's Day. And if you follow the podcast, you know that each year I try to do something different for Father's Day, whether it be, me reminiscing on my father and the influence that he's played in my life and still does to this day, or me talking about my kids, because I am a father of 4, or if I've had on, some of the homies, to come on and talk about Black fatherhood. I try to do something different each year. And this year will be no exception. On this particular episode, we're going to talk about Black TV dads. More importantly, I'm going to rank for you my top 10 Black TV dads. It goes without saying that I watched a lot of TV growing up. Still watch TV to this day, but not as much. But the sitcoms that I grew up watching, a lot of them had Black fathers. And it was never lost upon me that the father figure image that we saw on TV was used in a myriad of ways to portray Black life. And for some, it was unrealistic because the reality was that there was Black fathers on TV, but in some of the Black households that watched these Black fathers on TV, there was no father in the house. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't a father figure, because there's a difference. Some have fathers, and then others have fathers and father figures, and some just have father figures. But we all have a Black father or Black father figure in our lifetime to help, kind of help us, mold us, and guide us along the way. Nonetheless, a lot of times we get our inspiration from what we see on TV. Case in point, shout out to the homie, my brother from the West Coast, my man Baylor. You know him, you love him. He's been on this podcast. He has his own 2 podcasts, Open Run with BTG and BTG for President. And Baylor has said that he got a lot of his ideas as a father from the fathers that he saw on TV. And I thought that was key because, he had a father. His father unfortunately passed away, but what he saw on TV was something that he modeled himself as a father. And I think I think I'm not overstepping my boundaries by saying that Baylor is a great father. The Baylor that I know is a very, very good father to his children. Nonetheless, that statement by Baylor, got me to thinking about, what I was going to do for this particular episode. And here it is, Black TV dads, more specifically, my top 10 Black TV dads. And I put them in order. So I'm going to tell you who they are when they were on TV, and just give you my little brief synopsis of why I think they were good and the impact that they had. Starting off at number 10, George Jefferson. The show was called The Jeffersons. The father, the Black dad, was played by Sherman Hemsley. The Jeffersons was on TV from 1975 to 1985. George had one child, Lionel. George's profession, he was a dry cleaner. In fact, he had 7 dry cleaners throughout Metro New York City, one near you, as he would often tell us. George's parenting style, he was a little bit rough, somewhat abrasive, once you got past the ego, but he was caring. He cared about Lionel. Now, George as a father, I had to put him on the list because I think George Jefferson was the ultimate hustler. He was a guy that came up from the ghetto. His wife, Wheezy, was a housekeeper for Archie Bunker and Edith Bunker, and he didn't want his wife working as a housekeeper in these white folks' house anymore. And so he hustled his way up, and he bought one dry cleaning store, and he just took off from there, and he moved up to the east side to a deluxe apartment in the sky, to quote the theme song to the Jeffersons. But George as a father, we really, looking back on the episodes, we saw him, again, be very aggressive, kind of abrasive at times, but I think he was a good father. But here's the thing. Lionel, by the time the show came on, Lionel was, I want to say Lionel was like damn near in college. He might have been in college by the time the show came on. So we didn't get a chance to see Lionel kind of grow up or anything like that. So that's why I couldn't put George as high, but I spent a lot of time watching the Jeffersons, and I thought it was a great show. I really enjoyed it. I didn't realize it was on from 75 to 85 because it really seemed like it was on a lot longer than that. But yeah, man. I mean, in my opinion, I don't think you can make a list, be it how long you want the list to be, without putting George Jefferson on that list of Black TV dads. Number 9, Bernie McCullough. The show, The Bernie Mac Show. Obviously played by the late, great Bernie Mac. The show aired from 2001 to 2006. Now, what was interesting about this show was Bernie was a father figure, but he wasn't a father. He and his wife didn't have any kids of their own, but he had 2 nieces and a nephew. And Bernie's profession, he was a stand-up comic, which kind of mirrored his life in real life. His parenting style was, he gave tough love, but he made it funny. Like, that show was a funny show. And you get to see Bernie Mac in his element as he talks to the camera face to face, and the dialogue is to the camera, to the viewer. So I thought that was very interesting, something that you didn't really see, particularly in that part of the TV world. But this show was hilarious. Bernie really had a no-nonsense approach to parenting. He didn't take no mess, but, he did something that he referred to in his real stand-up job, his real job as a stand-up comedian. He talked about how he brought his nieces and his nephew in because his brother was on drugs. And, this kind of plays out in this show. He and his wife, Wanda, again, they didn't have any kids, but I think Bernie was a great dad and a great father figure, if for no other reason, just for taking the kids in. I mean, like, you don't have any kids of your own, but you're going to bring in your niece and your 2 nieces and your nephew, and you're a stand-up comedian. I mean, like, that takes a lot of courage. But I thought he was a great father, raising his brother and sister's kid. I can't remember if his sister was on drugs or his brother was on drugs. One of the two. But either way, he didn't miss a beat. And he gave the kids a life that they could thrive in. And I think at the end of the day, that's what you want to do as a parent. Again, he had a lot of funny moments, and he was very, very comical as a father and as a father figure. But I think overall, the McCullough family benefited from Bernie. And I think, Bernie was a guy who at least it appeared, as a father, would be the type that would discipline you 1 minute and then the next minute have you in stitches. I really enjoy watching the show. The show went off the air, obviously, when Bernie Mac passed away tragically, suddenly. I think from heart failure, I think. But nonetheless, great show. It's in syndication. All of these shows are in syndication, so check it out if you get a chance. But yeah, as far as Black TV dads, he had to go on the list, and he is coming in at number 9. Coming in at number 8, Carl Winslow. The show, Family Matters. Carl Winslow was played by Reginald Vell Johnson. The show ran from 1989 to 1988. Carl and his wife had 3 kids. Let's see, it was Eddie, Laura, and Judy. And he also had a nephew named Richie, who was like in all the time. And I guess if you want to add, I mean, Richie's not their kid, but technically they had 3 kids, but you could probably say their nephew Richie, and then he might be the 4th child, and the 5th child might be Urkel, the nerdy next door neighbor. The one thing I can say about Carl was not only was he a good dad, but he was a patient dad. He was the type of dad that kind of took his lumps around the house, but he did everything that he was supposed to do for his family. And he didn't want anything else. He didn't want anything in return. He just wanted peace, and he wanted his respect. That's it. And he got that from his wife, Harriet. But, you know, he was a very calm and patient guy. And I tell you what, it takes a lot of patience if you're Carl Winslow and you got to deal with Urkel, because Urkel literally and figuratively stole the show. If you follow the show Family Matters, Jaleel White, who played Urkel, really good actor. I mean, he played that character to a T, and Urkel became the show. And in a lot of people's minds, it's kind of like where the show fell off, because it went on to another tangent as far as Urkel was concerned. But we're talking about Carl. I think Carl was always there for the kids. He was always there, particularly for Eddie, his son, and Laura, his daughter, and daughter Judy as well. But more so Eddie and Laura, because they were the older kids. Eddie, learned life lessons from Carl. And I think what was interesting was, as you saw Eddie get older and more mature, as he grew into manhood, he challenged Carl along the way. He challenged Carl as far as some of his ideas. He challenged Carl as far as some of his discipline that he would dish out. And Carl wasn't going to back down. And he basically laid down the law and said, like, look, you're in my house. You're going to do as I say. And he fell in line, just like anybody else would. But I remember there was an episode where Urkel actually saved Carl's life. And he said, Urkel said that Carl was the best guy that he knew. And that was true. I mean, Carl was just a really, really great guy. Urkel had his own father, but I don't even think we've ever saw Urkel's parents. I mean, Urkel spent all of his time at the Winslow's house, and that was partly because of not just his love for Laura, but, he really enjoyed being around the father figure that Carl was. So got to give it up to Carl Winslow. As a TV dad, I think he was somebody that you could really, really enjoy if you watched that show. Aside from Urkel's antics that to me got to be annoying after a while, and when he became Stefan Urkel, the show became something else. Beside that, I think Carl Winslow was a very good dad and definitely worthy of being on this list. So I have him at number 8. Number 7, Julius Rock. The show, Everybody Hates Chris. Julius Rock was played by none other than Terry Crews. The show ran from 2005 to 2009. Julius had 3 kids, Chris, Drew, and Tanya. Julius's profession let's see. He did a lot of things. He was the newspaper delivery man. He was the security guard. He was a cab driver. He was a packager. There might have been like some other jobs that he did that I missed, but Julius famously, as his wife Rochelle would say, he had 2 jobs. He always kept a job, and Julius was funny. I think one of the more entertaining things about Julius was how much of a penny pincher he was. Julius was cheap. I mean, cheap. He would always take coupons. He never wanted to spend money on anything. He never wanted to buy name brand stuff. He always bought, like, even when he went grocery shopping, he would buy the basic brand food. He wouldn't buy name brand food. Like, he wouldn't buy Frosted Flakes. He'd buy Flakes. So I'll be honest. Everybody Hates Chris. The TV show is a hit in my house. And what was interesting was, I'm not sure why or where I was, but when the show was out, I didn't watch it. I don't ever remember watching any episodes, but somehow when it landed in syndication, I think one of my sons, I think it was probably Dion, our oldest son, started watching it, and then it became a family thing. And like, that's like one of our go-to shows. If an episode of Everybody Hates Chris is on, we'll sit there and watch it as a family. And we've seen every episode multiple times. It's just one of those shows where we lock in. I really can't tell you why or how my kids in particular have taken to that show, but they have. And they always get a kick out of Julius. One of my favorite scenes in the series was, I can't remember what happened, but Chris, who obviously Chris Rock, asked Julius for an allowance. And Julius says something like, "An allowance? I'll allow you to turn on my lights. I allow you to eat my food. I allow you to sleep in that bed. I allow you to spend, 36.6% of electricity in this house. I allow you to go to school." And he just kept talking about the things that he allows him to do. And he went on and on and on for like 5 minutes, to the point where Chris was falling asleep. Hilarious. I love this show. I'm a big fan of the show. Again, I still watch it anytime an episode comes on. Julius Rock is definitely a great dad. You don't want to be like Julius as far as spending money. Now, I'm not really big on spending money because I ain't got no money, but I'm not cheap. Julius is cheap. I'll spend money on my loved ones. I probably won't spend that much money on me, but Julius didn't want to spend money on anybody. He loved his family, but if he could find a way to take them to the dollar movie and spend and take, and spend less than $5, he'd be happy. Nonetheless, I had to put Julius on this list. Julius comes in at number 7. Number 6, Michael Kyle. The show, My Wife and Kids. Michael Kyle is played by Damon Wayans. The show ran from 2001 to 2005. Michael Kyle had 3 kids, Claire, Junior, and Katie. His profession, he owned his own trucking service. My Wife and Kids is a really, really dope show. Damon Wayans, I mean, come on, the last name says it all. There's not too many non-funny Wayans, and you can make a case that Damon is the funniest. This show, how can I say this? This show and the dynamics between Michael and his wife Jay, and Michael and the kids, and how Michael and Jay interact with the kids is very. There are a lot of similarities between how they interact with their kids and how they interact with each other, and how we do in my house. My wife Sharice and our 4 kids. I'm not saying we're the Kyles, by the way, which is their last name. But there's some similarities. And this is a show that that is a very good show. Michael's parenting style, he is all about letting the kids learn things on their own. And he'll tell you something and he'll expect you to do it. And if you don't do it his way, he'll let you fall on your face. And a lot of parents won't do that. He particularly had a lot of back and forth with his son, Junior. Junior's the only boy. He's named after his dad. And, he tried to teach Junior life lessons. And Junior, being hard-headed, kind of bucked a little bit from time to time, just like any boy would. But Junior learned. He had a very soft spot for both of his daughters, Claire and Katie. Katie being the youngest, she was the baby. She got away with stuff. Claire was the oldest and the daughter, and so he had a special, soft spot in his heart for her. But he would not back down from a challenge. He would challenge and push his kids. He was always trying to push them to succeed, but he was okay with letting them fail because he knew that would push them to success. But he was a tough dad, but a stern dad, but a fun dad at the same time. And he was all about the lessons. And so for that reason alone, and like I said, there's some similarities there. I had to put Michael Kyle on the list, and he goes in at number 6. Number 5, Andre Johnson. The show Blackish. Andre Johnson was played by Anthony Anderson. Blackish ran from 2014 to 2022. Blackish, they had 5 kids. Zoe, Junior, Jack, Diane, and Devontae. Andre's profession, he was a advertising marketing exec. His parenting style, he was very obnoxious. He was paranoid. He was meddling, but he was so loving. I think one of the things about Dre, because they call him Dre, not Andre. The thing about Dre's character is that it mirrored, I think, a lot of what we kind of inspired to be. Black, successful, but still having a sense of self. One of the things that I love, and this show here is another family favorite in my house. Like if it's a Friday night and there's nothing on TV, we'll order some wings and we'll get some pizza and fries and we'll sit in front of the TV. We can't find anything on TV. Hey, put Blackish on. We're going to watch an episode of Blackish. And I don't know why that is, but my kids absolutely, and they've seen every episode, every season, and they are fans, and I am too. But Andre, he's definitely the kind of guy you kind of aspire to be. He grew up in the hood, went to a black college, Howard University, shout out to HBCU, shout out to Howard, but he was very self-aware. He was self-aware of the success that he gained, but also as he moved up the corporate ladder, staying black and not being overlooked or ostracized. He really tried to maintain the balance between being successful and staying in touch with who he was as far as a black man is concerned, and staying in touch with his people, but not necessarily trying to assimilate into another part of society, and also being, I guess, corny, not trying to be, always trying to be himself. And I think that's the thing that, we all want to be. We all want to make sure that we don't lose ourselves as we move up the corporate ladder. I guess in a nutshell, that's what I'm saying. But he drove everybody crazy. He was paranoid at times because, he was successful, and he wanted to make sure that, he was still good in the hood, but he wasn't in. But he was in the suburbs, and he didn't want to get too close to his neighbors. But he was the kind of guy that would rock some new Jordans and Gucci, but trying to make sure that he wasn't sending the wrong message when he got around his black folks. It was an incredible show. They dealt with all kind of themes, and Dre was right in the center, in the middle of it. And I love the fact that somewhere in the middle of the run that they had, they showed Dre and his wife, Bo, who was a doctor, showed them have marital issues. And I thought that was super duper dope because, like, you don't see that in sitcoms. I mean, like, you barely see couples have arguments. I mean, sometimes you do, but even in some of the shows that I mentioned earlier, yeah, couples would have arguments, but not, I mean, like, Dre and Bo got to the point where they were almost on the verge of getting a divorce. And that's real. I mean, like, that can really happen in a black family. So again, I'm a huge fan of this show. I love the show. I want to have as many sneakers as Dre. I'm trying. Nonetheless, Dre Johnson definitely makes my list, and he goes in at the number 5 slot. Now, I'm going to venture and say these next 4 will probably be on if you make a top 10 list, these next 4 are going to be on just about everybody's list. It just really depends on where you put them. So with that being said, coming in at the number 4 slot, Fred G. Sanford. The G is for GOAT. The show, Sanford and Son, obviously, Fred Sanford was played by the late, great Red Fox. The show aired from 1972 to 1977. Fred famously had one child, one son by the name of Lamont. Fred's profession, he was a junk dealer. He created an empire, according to him. His parenting style, very angry, very grouchy, very annoyed. He was an old man. So, and Lamont was 30, 35 years old. So we didn't get to see Lamont grow up. But we do learn early in the show that Fred is a widower, and that, he's raising Lamont on his own in South Central Los Angeles. Now, Lamont was, like I said, he was 35, so he wasn't trying to be a Blood or a Crip. But he ran the junkyard, and he was a businessman. He was about business. He seemed to be annoyed with everybody and everything, and he didn't care about people's feelings. He said whatever. He was, he said some racially insensitive things at times. He called Esther all kinds of names. But he was funny as hell. I'm sorry. I mean, Sanford and Son is one of my favorite TV shows. His parenting style, again, was very abrasive. He famously called Lamont a big dummy. So he wasn't really the type of father that was going to pat you on the back or give you kudos or anything like that. But you knew that he loved Lamont. This we know. He loved Lamont, and he always wanted what was best for Lamont. And Lamont loved his dad. And I remember one episode specifically where he said, Lamont, I want you to know that I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you, you big dummy. That was love. That was Fred. I mean, but, all in all, I think Fred did a good job. Lamont, grew up in South Central Los Angeles. He wasn't a Blood. He wasn't a Crip. He did his thing, and, they ran a halfway decent, successful business. And, he had love for his son. And I think at the end of the day, that's all you can ask for. But he was funny. He was beyond comical funny. So yeah, Fred G. Sanford, the great Red Fox, who also shares a birthday with me, December 9th. Shout out to the Sagittarius. Comes in at number 4. Number 3, James Evans. The show Good Times, played by John Amos. Good Times ran from John Amos's stint on Good Times ran from 1974 to 1977. James had 3 kids. James Jr., a.k.a. JJ, Mr. Dynamite, Thelma, and Michael. James's profession, James was Mr. Do-It-All. He did everything. He was a handyman. He worked security. He worked at a grocery store. He worked at a loading dock. He worked at the car wash. James worked wherever he needed to work. And at the end of the day, I don't think you can be mad at that. His parenting style, he loved his kids. He loved his family, but he never told them. I don't think he ever said, "I love you" on that show. But everybody knew that he loved her. From Florida, who always got in the way of them trying to get out of the ghetto, to Walona, the nosy next door neighbor, to the jolly handyman, repairman for the building, Nathan Bookman, aka Booger. James loved everybody. He just had different ways of showing his love. But I think it goes without saying that James Evans is on the Mount Rushmore of TV dads. He was a working man's working man. He kept food on the table. He didn't take no disrespect. And he was the rocker of the family. He had a lot that he could have complained about, but he never complained. And what was interesting was, I mentioned a little earlier that his run on the show was only 3 years. And that is because James was famously or infamously killed off of the show. And legend has it is that the producers wanted to show more of JJ. They wanted more Dynamite. They wanted more, quote unquote, shucking and jiving. And John Amos really wasn't having it. He wanted to be more of a role as far as a father figure in the Evans household. And he didn't want the Evans household to be about comedy and games, which is what JJ was all about. And so they famously killed him off of the show, which gave us one of the greatest TV quotables ever. Damn, 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 damn. I can't do it, but you know what I'm talking about. Florida Evans at James's funeral, having a breakdown after she didn't cry the whole time at the funeral. And it's unfortunate that they took him off the show because I thought he was great. But again, I think James Evans is on the Mount Rushmore. I don't care where you put him. I think he's a top 4 dad. I got him at number 2, Dr. Heath. Getting tongue-tied here. Number 2, Dr. Heathcliff Huxtable, The Cosby Show, played by Bill Cosby. The show aired from 1984 to 1992. Bill Cosby famously had 5 kids: Sandra, Denise, Theo, Vanessa, and Rudy. His profession, he was an OBGYN. His parenting style was fun. He was very accessible. He was very uplifting. Now, before I start talking about Cliff Huxtable, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Bill Cosby. As many of you know, maybe you don't know, I'm not a fan of Bill Cosby. Personally, I think that Bill Cosby is a despicable person. I think that Bill Cosby did all of the crimes that he was accused of doing, and I think he should be in jail. I am not a fan of his as a man as to what he did to those women and what he put them through. And I don't believe for a second that they're lying. Not all of them. And I think that he should be in jail. That being said, I'm able to separate Bill Cosby from Cliff Huxtable. I can't say that I always did, but I do now. And I have for a while. And I still watch The Cosby Show. And I'm okay with watching The Cosby Show and separating Cliff Huxtable from Bill Cosby. Because I think Bill Cosby, I wouldn't have the time of day for Bill Cosby. If Bill Cosby walked into this room right now, I'd have a few choice words for Bill Cosby. However, Cliff Huxtable, I could hang with Cliff because Cliff was the coolest. He was the dad that we all aspired to be. We all wanted to be like Cliff Huxtable. We all wanted to marry a beautiful wife and have beautiful kids and live in a beautiful Brooklyn brownstone just like he did. Bill Cosby, I ain't kicking it with Bill Cosby. I'm not saying nothing to Bill Cosby, but I'm able to separate the character from the man. Now, I'll be honest, a lot of people can't. And if you don't have Bill Cosby, or particularly Cliff Huxtable, on your top TV's dad list for that very reason, I understand. You get no argument from me. Personally, Cliff Huxtable makes my list. He's at number 2. And the reason why I have him at number 2, because he truly was America's dad. He did it all. He was funny. He was fun-loving, not judgmental. He would let his kids kind of figure things out, but he'd be right there along the way to kind of guide them. And I would be lying if I told you that I didn't take some of Cliff Huxtable's ways to impart into myself as a father. Because here's the thing about fatherhood, particularly for Black dads. There's no handbook that comes with it, right? I mean, for fatherhood in general, but more specifically, because we're talking about Black dads here, there's no handbook that comes with kids. It's like you're literally learning on the job every single day as you go along. And you're going to make some mistakes. And the thing I loved about Cliff was that even when he made mistakes, he was man enough to own up to his mistakes, but he also let the kids be themselves. He didn't rush them to grow up. Now, granted, he and his wife were able to provide a beautiful, extravagant lifestyle for their kids. But at the same time, he gave them lessons. He gave them gems. He gave them the wisdom. He gave them his time. Because here's the thing. Cliff spent a lot of time delivering babies. He spent a lot of time with his patients, and he worked from home. He was like the first work from home dad that we saw on TV. And we didn't even know he worked from home. But he worked from home. He had his office in his basement. And so, he did all of that, and he provided financially for his kids, but he also let them be who they were. I mean, think about it like this. Sandra goes off, she goes to Princeton. Denise goes to Hillman. Denise, after 2 years, goes to Hillman and pretty much flunks out. And so even in doing that, he has to understand, like, I didn't do something right. Or at least that's the way he kind of took it. Like, I didn't do something right. And it's not necessarily that he did something wrong, but it's just like you can provide and provide and provide everything that you want for your kids, but your kids are going to take the path that they want to take. And that's a life lesson right there. That's a very key life lesson. And I think anybody that watched that show could get that from that. And then what's interesting was, I mentioned Sandra, she went to Princeton. She graduates from Princeton and she wants to open up a wilderness store. I mean, he paid for her to go to Princeton. You don't pay $100,000 for your kid to go to Princeton and then they decide that they're not going to go to medical school, that they're going to open up a wilderness store. Who does that? So, I think Cliff did a really good job of keeping himself and his kids grounded. And again, he allowed them to be who they were. He allowed them to grow. He allowed them to make mistakes. And I think, again, just personally, that's something that I took from Cliff, and I try to do that as a father myself. Are my kids gonna always do what I want them to do? No. But if I can guide them just a little bit, hopefully they stay on the path that we got them on. They might not, and that's okay. But again, I'm able to separate Cliff from Bill. Some people can't. And so if you told me that you came up with a Black TV dad list and Cliff Huxtable's not on it, cool. I get it. I got him at number 2. Number 1, coming in at number 1, if you've been following, you probably know by now, the number one black TV dad, in my opinion, the Honorable Philip Banks, a.k.a. Uncle Phil. The show, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Uncle Phil was played by the late, great James Avery. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air ran from 1990 to 1996. The Banks, more specifically, Uncle Phil had 4 kids: Hillary, Carlton, Ashley, and Nikki. And I guess you could probably say 5 because Will was his kid. His parenting style, no nonsense, but he had a lot of humanity in it. And I mentioned his profession. He was a judge, a Supreme Court judge, I think. Uncle Phil was the greatest. Uncle Phil was the greatest. I don't think you can have any TV discussion. You can't have a black TV dad discussion without Uncle Phil. I don't think you can have if you're talking about TV dads in general, black, white, whatever, you got to include Uncle Phil. Uncle Phil was the guy. Like, as I mentioned about Cliff Huxtable, there were certain elements of Uncle Phil's game that I borrowed. And Baylor mentioned the same thing on his podcast. There are parts of Uncle Phil's game that he borrowed as well. And that's what you do as a father. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, much like the Cosby Show, still gets a lot of play in my house on the TV screens. I've seen every episode a gazillion times, and it never fails. If there's an episode on, I'm going to sit and watch it. And a lot of it has to do with Uncle Phil. Uncle Phil did something that a lot of people wouldn't do. He took in his nephew, and his nephew was in Philly getting into trouble, and he brought him out to Bel-Air to get him give him exposure to a different type of life. And it turned out to be the best thing for him. He didn't see it at the time, and Will fought Uncle Phil all along the way. He didn't want to conform. He didn't want to do certain things Uncle Phil's way, and he made fun of Uncle Phil's weight. But Uncle Phil was the greatest. And the thing that I loved about this show, of the many things that I love about this show, was Uncle Phil, probably from day one, treated Will like he would his own child. And he had a different way of doing it. But as the seasons went on, particularly by the time they got to the final season, when we knew that it was over, he said it as much. Of course, one of my favorite scenes is the scene with when Will's dad, his biological father, comes back to see Will, and Uncle Phil almost took his dad's head off because he didn't want him to interrupt not just what they were establishing, but he knew what kind of guy he was. He was the kind of guy that's going to pop in and pop out and just hurt his son's feelings. And Uncle Phil was very protective. He was like, a big grizzly bear. He was going to make sure that nobody was going to touch his family. And I mean, you can't be mad at that. Uncle Phil, again, I think was the greatest. Unfortunately, we lost James Avery way too soon. A phenomenal actor, not just on this show, but across the board. But yeah, I couldn't think of anybody else to put at number one. I think you could make a case for James Evans. You can make a case for Cliff Huxtable. Maybe you could make a case for Fred G. Sanford. But for my money, I'm putting Uncle Phil at number one. So for those of you scoring at home, let's take it back. At number 10, again, this is my list. I'll give you an opportunity to tell me about yours. Number 10, George Jefferson. Number 9, Bernie McCullough. George Jefferson from the Jefferson Show. Bernie McCullough from the Bernie Mac Show. Number 8, Carl Winslow from Family Matters. Number 7, Julius Rock from Everybody Hates Chris. Number 6, Michael Kyle from My Wife and Kids. Number 5, Andre Johnson from Blackish. Number 4, Fred G. Sanford from Sanford and Son. Number 3, James Evans from Good Times. Number 2, Heathcliff Huxtable from The Cosby Show. And number 1, the Honorable Philip Banks, a.k.a. Uncle Phil, from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So there you have it. Thank you for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Let me tell you where you can subscribe. You can subscribe on YouTube. We have our YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, 12 Kyle podcast, hit the subscribe button and turn the notifications on so you can get notifications when we drop episodes. The great thing about YouTube is that we have not only audio, but video of every episode. You can also subscribe to me and follow me on social media. It's 12 Kyle and 12 Kyle podcast. That's on Twitter X, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. You can also subscribe and wait, did I say I didn't tell you how you could contribute financially. Let me not forget that. If you feel so inclined, hit us up on Cash App, $TWELVEKYLE. Also, if you look in the description box, you will see a link. Right above it, it says merch. You can get merchandise from the 12 Kyle podcast, 12 Kyle podcast mugs, 12 Kyle podcast t-shirts, 12 Kyle podcast hoodies as well. Support. We would definitely appreciate your support. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thank you again for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5,000.
Working across teams is tough, but Asana helps you handle it. Asana AI can spot roadblocks and assign work to keep everything on track. That's how work gets handled. Visit us at asana.com.
When you manage procurement for multiple facilities, every order matters. But when it's for a hospital system, they matter even more. Grainger gets it and knows there's no time for managing multiple suppliers and no room for shipping delays. That's why Grainger offers millions of products in fast, dependable delivery, so you can keep your facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.